Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom Haggis.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Second, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel Rowald.
Ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
I haven't. Third,
I think we're going to all do Joker quotes, right?
probably.
Yeah.
Third, our first special guest judge, filmmaker and owner of White Poison Industries, Nick Strickland.
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
Last but not least is our second special guest judge for this month, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Ink Studios, Andrew Zumwalt.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's... Yeah, see? Took it in a different direction.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Mixing it up.
You didn't want to rub someone else's rhubarb.
Bird.
All right. Well, as you guys probably noticed, you the listener, we called an audible, and we are not doing the Ten Commandments versus Exodus, Gods and Kings. Is that right? Gods and Kings? That's the right subtext, I think. Tom texted me about a week after we recorded the last episode and suggested Batman versus Superman, since that movie has come out. And, well, let's just say it has mixed reviews. I might give a review of it during the show, but I doubt it because I don't want to get sued by Warner Brothers. So sorry to everyone that actually watched the Ten Commandments and Exodus, Gods and Kings. I know that our panelists are made up of 48-hour filmmakers, but they don't want to take 48 hours to watch two films. That's about how long they were. So, without further ado, let's poke the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, Boy Scouts and detectives, welcome to the main event! Tonight, we have a colossal clash of titans as the Bat of Gotham battles the Son of Krypton in a special Cinesmack Smackdown! In the first quarter from 1978, directed by Richard Donner, starring Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, and Gene Hackman. Superman! In the second corner from 1989, directed by Tim Burton, starring Michael Keaton, Kim Basinger, and Jack Nicholson. Batman!
This should be interesting. Let's start off with our first round, which is writing.
First of all, there's a lot of bit said about origin stories and where these stories come from, and using comic book movies and kickstarting them again with origin stories, and they always tend to do well. And I kind of have to applaud Sam Hamm, who has like one of the coolest names of all time, for not going with the origin story, and they do a really cool kind of fake out at the beginning of Batman. And even though I've seen it, 5 or 6 times, I always forget that because they start calling each other names. I'm like, that's not their names. What are they doing? Why do you call him Jimmy? And then I was like, oh, that's right. This isn't really the Batman origin story. This is just something happening to someone else at the same time, similar to what happened to Bruce Wayne when he was a kid. And I really love the way they go into the Batman thing, and they don't waste a lot of time with the origin story. Not to say that origin stories are a waste of time. Superman, on the other hand, goes origin story for the first 80% of the movie.
Yeah.
They really take their time getting into it. And for some reason, my kids will disagree because I watched this with them, and they got an hour into it, and they're like, "Where the fuck is Superman, Dad?" I thought you said we were watching Superman, not Farm Boy. And I said, Superman's coming. Just give it time. But for some reason, the Superman origin story, I love the way that it's drawn out and the way that they tell the story, and they take their time with it. And both of them handle that aspect of their story the same way. So I don't know. What do you guys think in terms of how these guys did that?
I'm shocked that I did not respond the same way your kids did when I was a kid. That was my reaction. I remember thinking Superman was fun. I probably hadn't watched it in 20, 25 years until right before this podcast, and I was surprised that I liked that movie as a kid.
Really?
Really? You think it was maybe too slow, too boring? Superman didn't show up soon enough?
Just compared to the overblown action in today's action movies, it just seemed like so much. Especially the beginning where they're talking about the politics.
That's true. But still, I mean, you have to take those things into kind of historical context. I mean, a lot of the older movies that we loved don't hold up to a certain degree when it comes to visual effects and action and writing and storytelling and those kinds of things. But at the time, they were groundbreaking in one way or another. And
the genre, right?
What's that?
It created the genre to a degree of the superhero blockbuster rather than them being sort of corny B movies.
Oh yeah,
right. Sure, absolutely, yeah.
It was just weird watching it. I felt like, I enjoyed it as an adult in ways that I know I didn't appreciate it as a kid. And I was like, man, this is I don't know, pretty adult for a superhero movie.
And as a kid, I always loved Superman, and even the fact that watching Superman 2, how they bled into each other. So I felt it was more of a big movie all at once. And so I liked the fact that they have him go through. You'd never seen Superman be a teenager really much, and you never got to see Superman be awkward.
Right.
And I enjoyed that. I saw that as something that you could connect to as a child. But as pacing goes, it probably is one of the slowest opening origin stories.
As a kid, I thought it was really cool. He kicked that football so far.
I know. Yeah. But he waits until everybody's gone because they make it. They're assholes to Clark Kent. Every
Absolutely.
single kid in the entire school.
See, but they're just setting up Superman 3. So
let's not. No.
Oh shit! Oh man, I just tripped over my recommendation. I don't know how old you guys are. Do you remember, in the mid '80s, late '80s, when they would show Superman every fall on TV?
Yes.
And they would get right to the point where Lois lets go of the helicopter. And I know that is the midway point of that movie because they would come up and be like, tune in tomorrow for the exciting conclusion of Superman. And I watch it now and I go, son of a bitch, I sat through an entire night of prime time without looking at Superman.
Yep.
And then you'd have to tune in the next night. And I knew that school was starting soon because Superman was on TV. And we'd watch it the next night. And the next night was like, the second half is so much better. And except for that Lois Lane flying crap. That stuff just bores the hell out of me.
Hey, can you read my mind?
Yeah, what? I don't. That scene alone may cost Superman some points for me tonight, but.
Oh, good. I'm not the only one that has problems with that scene. All right.
It's so long.
Oh.
I'm like, drop her.
Well, and that's the other thing is half of that scene, she's flying way off to the side, and she's floating somehow magically. That
Right.
I don't even know how that. It's like a bird or something. It's really bizarre.
It's a movie about it's a movie about a guy that can make the world spin backwards. I don't lend too much to the physics on it. I don't. It doesn't keep me up at night.
And you know, on the writing topic, I guess I have to hit that topic a little bit too. That at some point they decided that Superman flying fast enough around the Earth, causing it to spin backwards, would also somehow reverse time. And nobody ever questioned that. And I think that's the part that has to take some points away from Superman for me in that. Because even as a kid, I was like, that's ridiculous. That's just
70s,
ridiculous.
that's what
I
they
get
believed.
it. But the Earth going backwards it just means it's going to spin the other way. It's not going to reverse time.
It's just like rewinding a tape.
They didn't have that knowledge scientifically back in the 70s. They didn't know better.
Right. That 8-track.
It was the Dark Ages, for Christ's sake, Gabe.
Come on, guys.
Well, and there were no rules with it. Like, he spun the world back, and then Jimmy's like, rocks are falling everywhere,
Right.
and he starts describing the catastrophe. I'm like, wait, so they retain their memories of dying? And Jimmy seemed pretty cool for somebody that just hung off the edge of the Hoover Dam. So
Now, I've heard two different explanations of why he goes around the Earth to turn it backwards. One is that he's not physically turning the Earth around backwards; that it's just showing that he himself is flying back through time. Which, holy crap! You know, if you can go that fast, it's only 88 miles an hour. But and then the other one is, of course, that he stops Earth's rotation, spins it backwards, which apparently has to deal with our time on Earth, and then restarts it again. So yeah, I kind of like the idea that he's flying back in time instead of trying to spin the Earth.
So
but the Earth changes rotation.
Yeah,
does
that's just to show like that he
That
physically
time
is going backwards. Yeah.
What if you were in daylight savings time, though?
Oh, that would screw everything up.
Shit.
I don't buy it. I think it's just a dumb ending.
I agree. I agree.
Okay.
They were editing it, and they were like, "Oh shit, this is 4 hours. We're gonna have to."
So, but to that point, I mean, Superman 1 and Superman 2 were being shot at the same time, which had never been done, ever. And Richard Donner, we'll get to him later in later rounds, he had a story, and they took it away from him. And so I think there was some drop in some of that, what should have been for the A, B, and C for both Superman and Superman 2.
Yeah.
And I got to give it a little bit to the fact that Warner Brothers was like, we're going to do whatever we want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, at least they made a good call with Batman. I mean, when Batman came out, it was just huge. And I remember even, at that age, I remember the hype and everything built around it. It was a mainstream comic book movie, which hadn't been done since Superman. The Supermans, and don't judge me for this, but the only Superman I ever saw in the theater was Superman 4.
Nice.
But yeah, I just remember the hype, and I think it's well written, and you kind of watching it, you wonder if Joker steals the show, until you sit back and you watch Keaton, and I mean Keaton's pretty good, but we'll get into the acting part. But I'm just wondering how many of those lines were thought up during the filming, or were actually down in the script, because I haven't had a chance to look at the scripts.
I think most of them were in the script. Jack Nicholson's not usually much of an improv player.
Right. Well, or
he's
Tim
really
Burton,
Tim Burton
throwing him out to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Tim Burton himself, though, he is a pretty dark person. He is very eloquent when he plans his movies. I mean, very meticulous in every little piece, and so I would be shocked if he didn't have almost all of it written down. I mean, he's a little weird guy, and
He likes to have just so.
and he is very particular about what he does, and so I guess
I read the Jack Nicholson improvised his little dance when he was leaving Vicky Vale's apartment. The little.
Oh, I have heard that, but I would say that Tim, with most of what he did that made this one so much different, besides it being just the Batman franchise that everybody had been dying to see, it was a darker superhero movie that people weren't quite expecting, and he made Batman this kind of quirky, good, bad, kind of craziness to him that was really amazing to see on the screen compared to Adam West.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it crazy that was considered the dark Batman?
I know.
No one's going to think of it like that anymore. But at the time, I think that was like a dark iteration of it.
Well,
were you self-bleeping yourself there?
Yeah, sorry. I just called me out.
And coming off of Beetlejuice,
yeah,
he really had this craziness to him that really drove people in.
All right, well, let's go ahead. If you guys have anything else to say about writing.
Regarding writing, my favorite line, the funniest line in either movie, I think, is in Superman, when the little child goes back in the house and was like, Mommy, I saw Superman. And the mom says, haven't I told you to stop telling lies? Slap!
There's a couple of moments like that in Superman where it's like, I'm not sure that would be acceptable today.
The first
child abuse.
The first time he turns into Superman, the guy walks up and goes, "Hey man!" And he's a big old black pimp.
Oh yeah, the pimp.
And he's like, "Hey man, that's a bad outfit, man."
But he doesn't say anything.
Whoa!
Excuse me.
I know it's racist, but then he also doesn't say anything about like Superman flying. Like Superman flies, and
right,
it seems
it's about the
normal
outfit.
To him. Yeah, it's more about what he's wearing.
Yeah.
Very weird.
I do love that Superman saves the cat and then flies away when the child abuse starts.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice priorities there, big guy.
Good point.
All right, Tom.
Oh crap! I gotta pick one.
Yeah.
Batman, because of Jack Nicholson's lines. I'm gonna give him the writing.
Okay. Gabe.
I like them both, but I think I felt like Superman was a better written film. So
all right.
I'm going to go with Superman.
All right. Nick?
I feel like they're both well written. I'm going to give this one to Superman, too.
Oh, no, we're talking about Superman. Andrew. The first one.
They're both pretty equal, but I definitely have to go with Superman.
All right. A scene was written in Batman, but never filmed, in which the Joker took over a public ceremony, held Mayor Borg hostage, causing Borg to experience a breakdown, unveiled a statue of himself, and laced the Gotham City Police Department's coffee with a non-lethal poison, which would have explained why there's no police in the parade scene. And in an early draft of Superman, one of Lex Luthor's personality quirks, get this, guys, I kind of chuckled at this, is that he likes to chew on Kleenex. Like, really? Really?
Yeah, like
did
who
Kleenex come in and say, hey, if you guys give us a spot in the film, and they're like, I wonder how we could work that in.
I'm surprised they didn't have Lex Luthor chewing on Kentucky Fried Chicken and smoking Marlboros.
No,
There's enough of that in there.
That's in the second film. All right, let's move on to our second category, which is acting.
This one I think will be a fun category because I think there's a number of good performances in both of these movies. And so I think it's going to also make it difficult for us to choose. I remember seeing Superman when I was a kid, and, I never really put too much thought into, the acting at that time. But this time around, I was kind of looking at that, and I really actually enjoyed Christopher Reeve as Superman. I think he was a great choice for that. I understand they went through a lot of different people on the way to trying to, choose Superman. And the list of names that I saw was at times just kind of ridiculous. Like, really? You considered him for Superman. Christopher Walken.
I'd
Who
love
else?
that.
What's that?
I'd love to see that.
that would be weird. He would have been actually he would have been a great Joker.
Yeah.
Although for Batman, Jack Nicholson really that really is a great performance from him. It's a little over the top, but it somehow works. And I always loved that performance from him. And the choice of Michael Keaton, I have mixed feelings about. I like him. I do. I like him as Batman. But I don't feel like he's very suave as Bruce Wayne. He's got this kind of almost kind of silly look to him. He looks good in The Mask. His jawline and his eyes work in The Mask, in the bat suit. But out of it, I just didn't feel like he was Bruce Wayne to me. He wasn't debonair and smooth and cool enough for me. I thought his delivery of lines and all that kind of thing was good. I just didn't. His look for Bruce Wayne didn't work for me.
He didn't seem like a multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
Seemed like a regular dude they put in a mansion.
Yeah, and maybe that was the point to a certain degree, because even Vicky Vale says something about it, like, "Oh, you don't seem like a billionaire or whatever." And maybe that was the point to a certain degree. But yeah, I just didn't feel like he had that suaveness about him when he was Bruce Wayne. But again, as a kid, I thought he was awesome as Batman.
Oh, well, yeah. And we're looking back at it, how many years afterwards, and how many more Batman did we have?
Yeah,
Batman.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. I loved his almost craziness, almost losing his mind kind of edge. That
Do you want to get nuts?
Batman. Yeah, let's get nuts. He just had that edge that was so great. I have to throw out. Everyone talks about Heath Ledger and how great his performance was as a Joker, but I got to tell you, Jack Nicholson pulled off a pretty damn good Joker. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people forget how good of a Joker that he played and how crazy and goofy and just off the wall he was, and just spot on with that character. And
I agree. It was a little bit more. Yeah, it was a little more over the top, campy, goofy. Whereas Heath Ledger's was a little bit more kind of edgy and serious and almost kind of dangerous.
Psychotic.
What's that?
Psychotic-ish.
Yeah, for sure. But I agree completely that Nicholson's performance really stood out, especially at the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you guys were mentioning Christopher Reeve not being very well known and all the other people, and he had training to get buff, because that was one of the problems, because I guess he auditioned once or twice and they were like, no, he's not big enough to play Christopher Reeve, and he went on a big bodybuilding, and then when he finally got the part, they had Darth Vader trained him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is weird.
I know.
I never thought of that guy was he a bodybuilder? I don't
David
know.
Prowse helped him just because.
Was he a big guy? He was tall, obviously,
yeah.
but
he was a
know.
larger gentleman.
Hey.
oh.
No, larger in stature, not what you guys are thinking. Oh, God.
Well, I think we should also mention Gene Hackman.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And, I was a little bit... it's funny because was it last month when we did the...
Hoosiers
with him.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't... I like Gene Hackman. And I like many of the movies he's been in. I didn't really have much, kind of empathy for him or in Hoosiers, because he kind of came across as kind of a jerk or something. What? I thought so.
He was trying to get his life on track. He was,
right.
Just getting back to
but in
being in love.
Superman,
He was starting on the inside.
I liked him. I thought he did a good performance as Lex Luthor.
I think so too. I thought he was totally empathetic because Superman was such a tool. Like, he should have felt that full of himself. an egomaniacal. Like where he's like brains over brawn and he's putting the kryptonite on him. I'm like, that's right. Superman acted like a tool. You should have seen this coming a million miles away.
Yeah.
Right.
What you deserve. And I will point out that the Gene Hackman is basically like the Lex Luthor is Donald Trump. He's a megalomaniac, balding real estate cheat. Right? Like that whole character.
That wants to sell oceanfront property
Yes.
in the western parts of the United States. Yep.
Okay, now I'm empathetic to Lex Luthor. Thank you.
As opposed to the Joker, who is a delusional clown who takes over the television, throws his money around to fool people into thinking he's not a monster.
Oh, no, wait. He also made a lot of, like, I don't know, cool products such as, like, hairspray and lipstick and things to kill people. But it only had to be a certain thing. So lipstick and hairspray worked, but eyeshadow and hairspray were fine. So it was a very meticulous plan. That makes him smart.
Yeah.
Or crazy, whichever.
I did like you. Lex Luthor definitely had all his marbles. I think it was like there's an element of danger where the Joker's like, he wasn't playing with a full deck before he got dropped into the vat of acid.
No.
Like,
Well, Gene Hackman was or Lex Luthor was just a bad guy, whereas, it took a vat of acid for the Joker to really let loose, which is kind of sad.
Well, he was having sex with Jack Palance's wife, and no respect for family values whatsoever.
Let's talk about Jack Palance. I love Jack Palance. All right.
Can we go one podcast without you saying that?
You're my number one
What about
guy.
That's pretty good.
What about the 12 days or 10 days that Marlon Brando was on set and that was it?
Yeah.
And was paid the highest out of all of the other actors?
Exactly.
Right. He made $14 million or something.
Well, and
all of his stuff was written down. They put his script on set, so he was looking at his lines because he refused to memorize lines.
Well, actually, that's part of my trivia, and thanks for bringing it up.
Sorry.
In the scene where he puts the infant Kal-El into the escape pod, he's actually reading lines from the diaper. They wrote the lines on the diaper.
I mean, it's Marlon Brando. Come on, dude, memorize some damn lines.
Right.
If that was a record when they were shooting the movie, the still 29 years later, the highest salary for a movie was Jack Nicholson in Batman, because he had a deal where it was a percentage of the gross income from the film.
Exactly.
Dude made $60 million.
Yeah, he's no dummy.
If we're talking bad guys too, I just want something I love watching when I'm watching. Here's the thing: when I look at bad guys' plans for what their evil plan is, every time I watch Superman, I just sit back and be like, Lex Luthor, you magnificent genius! This is a great fucking idea.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously, buying up the wasteland and pushing the crappy parts of California into the ocean. Well done, sir. Well done. I have family that lives on that. I shouldn't say that, but and Joker's plan was kind of like, you just want everyone to be crazy as you.
Right.
Yes. And even the Luthor's plans to stop the missiles on the road, those were both clever. The self-driving car, and I don't know how he got a house in 5 minutes after failed.
What about the overly sexual military people that basically tried to molest the chick in red? Tessmacher.
That was J.R. Ewing. You got to give Larry Hagman.
Yeah.
When Larry Hagman wants to put his mouth on you, you let Larry Hagman put his mouth on you.
Exactly.
I've learned that through 7 seasons of watching Dallas.
Okay, so
And this Tessmacher does kind of rape Superman later.
Yeah. And let's talk about. I love how Gene Hackman says her name.
Miss Tessmacher!
I love that. I'm going to start doing that to Amanda when she's upstairs and I'm downstairs. I'm just going to yell it.
Oh, speaking of Amanda,
Right?
I thought it was pretty funny that there was that one character in the newscast named Amanda Keeler.
What the hell did you know about that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, But it was spelled differently. But
Yeah.
it was Amanda Keeler.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I was watching it with Lisa, and she sat up and she goes, "Holy shit! Did they just say Amanda Keeler?"
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, see, she was in the movie already.
There you go.
amazing. This has nothing to do with acting.
No,
That's
it
what
doesn't.
we're talking
It
about.
doesn't. But
The people who
he brought it up, so I wanted to.
Superman / Clark Kent. I thought the baby was shit. The toddler who shows his penis is a little bit better. The what was the next one? The angsty teenage one.
Yep.
Like we don't even get to see Christopher Reeves until like 45 minutes into the movie.
Oh, I mean, you're speaking of child Superman. I want to talk about. I love Glenn Ford as Pa Kent. I just love that, and I always remember watching Superman like Tom when they had the two-nighter, and I would always have to turn away when he was having the heart attack.
Yeah. What is it? Is there something on that part? Because I don't know what it is. I must have a dusty house, but every time I get something in my eye at that part.
Same here. Like
What the hell?
it still to this day, I can't watch that scene without tearing up.
Krypton, millions of people blown to bits. Don't give a shit. Pa
Yeah.
Kettle drops in the farm. I'm like, God, there's no hospital nearby.
True, I didn't really care when Brando died.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
That's because he was reading his lines from a diaper.
Well,
You know, he asked, he's like, can I just bring my cat? I have a cat I use for Godfather. Can I just bring my cat?
And he said, for $3.7 million, I get my cat.
Its name is Cat L.
So-
Sorry, bad joke. Really bad joke.
So what about Margot Kidder? Because I'll tell you, even as a kid, I was like, I thought Lois Lane was supposed to be, pretty, and I never thought.
Oh my God!
Sorry.
Whoa.
But I never thought she was attractive. I thought
I'm with you.
she was whiny. I thought
Yeah.
she was just a really crappy. She was always getting into stupid ass trouble that no person would ever be able to get into, just to be an antagonist for Superman, and she was just really annoying.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, gotta disagree with you. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, no, she was one of my first, so yeah.
I don't know. I'm with Andrew. I never saw it. Never.
Yeah, you're 12.
No. It's the same with what's her name for Raiders of the Lost Ark. They look the same to me.
Yeah, they do look the same, but she's so much better looking in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
her name?
Shit.
Karen Allen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But
Never
I
really.
thought the same thing about having Kim Basinger in Batman. I didn't like her performance. I thought it was just kind of
No, I will agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree on the performance. She's better looking.
Yeah, I felt that
She's
it was
more enjoyable to look at,
I
which is
felt that
really
it was-
shallow of me, but it's true.
it was a pre-Michael Bay. Let's put a pretty model in a movie so people can go see this.
Right.
Right.
Because it was just
I think she improves, and I think they do something different with her in Superman 2. I don't know what it is, but I like her acting a little bit better in Superman 2. But we're not talking about Superman 2. We're talking about the first one.
no. She climbs onto the Eiffel Tower and she
Oh,
slips
God,
by
yeah.
a Paris
That scene is not in-
policeman- a Paris policeman by showing him a translation book.
That scene is not in Superman 2. I'm sorry. The Richard Donner cut is the only cut that I will recognize.
And
I
the
will
Paris scene is not in there.
100% all the way on that one.
yeah. And I have Tom to thank to actually tell me. He actually told me about the Donner cut, and I'm like, wait, what?
I want to see Lois Lane shoot Superman. That's what I want to see.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else about acting?
Jesus, we're only on acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
I
A
should
quick
have
shout
peed before
out.
we started this. What?
A quick shout out to Billy D. Williams. I love me some
Lando.
Billy D.
Did anybody think that was a weird choice, though?
Well,
I like Billy D. Williams, but I thought that was a weird choice.
I think they
Tommy
were
Lee
just
Jones-
trying to go different with him.
Tommy Lee Jones was a weird choice, and
Yeah.
Aaron Eckhart was a weird choice. Harvey Dent's just a weird character anyway.
He's you've got to get the oh, what do you want to say? The do-gooder DA type, but also they have to be able to play Two-Face.
Right.
You know.
Oh, so yeah, Lando,
He did a
perfect.
good job. I don't think he did a good job at doing the Two-Face part of it, though. Harvey Dent was just a character, Harvey Dent. No one really got, oh, well, that's going to be Two-Face later.
Right.
Because he was just a character.
He was just Harvey Dent. Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually signed on because he thought he was going to be asked back to do Two-Face.
Well, I think that they had to buy him out when Tommy Lee Jones did it.
Yes. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
What a two-faced thing to do.
But all right, Gabe.
Oh, actually, this one's tough. This one's kind of tough. I don't know. I like performances in both. Wow. I think I'm going to have to go with Batman because of Jack Nicholson.
All right. Nick?
It's tough. I really enjoyed the whole team of bad guys in Superman, especially Otis, and the music that accompanied them. But just based on,
we'll definitely be talking about music.
What's that?
Oh, we'll definitely be talking about music later.
Yes, we should. There's tons of great music in these movies. But just based on Jack Nicholson's performance alone, I think that I have to give it to Batman.
All right. Andrew?
It's tough for me too, just because Christopher Reeve does a great job as a believable Superman. But you guys all went with Jack Nicholson. I'm going to go with Michael Keaton. I freaking love him as Batman. He does this awesome Batman, and I got to go with Batman for this one.
All right. Tom?
Well, Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman kind of cancel each other out. So, but I think Ned Beatty's there to save the day, so I'm going to give it to Superman.
All right. All right.
By the way, I just got to point out this is the last time we'll probably ever do a movie with Robert Wall, and I love Robert Wall. But we've done Bull Durham, we've done Superman. I think that's all his movies. So
we've hit them all.
Unless we do Arliss, I think we're just pretty much set.
All right. For Superman, Robert Redford, Clint Eastwood, and James Caan were just amongst some of the actors offered the movie's title role. All three turned it down. Redford wanted too much money. Eastwood said he was too busy. Caan said, "There's no way I'm getting into that silly suit."
I just can't imagine any of those guys as Superman.
Right.
Eastwood
right.
especially.
Yeah, but if they had put him in there,
he'd be badass. But I don't imagine him as Superman.
If they had put him in there, we'd be sitting here going, "I can't picture Michael Keaton as Batman."
Yeah.
So it's all perspective.
Considering we were talking about Superman, yes.
Were you really?
Yes.
I'm not paying attention. I'm watching The Artist.
Yeah, we were yeah.
I got The Artist on one screen and City Lights on the other. Fuck off.
I don't know how accurate the list of actors is, but I've seen lists of actors that they considered for Superman, and
Schwarzenegger, Stallone. Yeah, there's a very long list.
Yeah, and it's so weird because almost none of them really make sense to me.
That's the whole reason why when what's his name made Superman Returns, good old what's his name, he cast Brandon Routh because he wanted a no-name actor, just kind of like how Christopher Reeve was. And let's face it, they look a lot alike.
They do.
Like a lot alike in those films. But anyway, for Batman, Willem Dafoe, I'm trying to say that like Strickland would say it. David Bowie, John Lithgow, Tim Curry, and James Woods were also all considered for the Joker.
Now, those I can actually picture.
I can picture Willem Dafoe. I think Willem Dafoe needs to be a Joker. Hands down.
Yeah.
Wasn't he Green Goblin?
Was.
Yeah.
That's why Strickland was rapping about him.
Yep. That's right. Willem Dafoe. All right. Let's move on to our third round, which is directing.
I mentioned earlier the Superman kind of created its own genre for the blockbuster. Like they really put their balls on the line for that to try to make something that could have been a big flop, like a big, high budget, effects heavy superstar thing, and they should be given credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Batman, like rather than a genre starting thing, was kind of a genre defining film. Like that was at the time the peak pinnacle superhero movie possible, done by a very I feel like Tim Burton has sort of gotten into a rut with his movies, but he was still like joyful in his filmmaking at this point in his career, and the movie's just a delight from beginning to end. It starts quick, it introduces both characters in the first 8 minutes of the film, and I don't know, like when I was a child, my parents offered me $500 if I would not watch TV for a year. With the exception, I got to watch one movie a week. So I watched Batman like 50 weeks out of the year. I love this film. So,
did you really get through a year without watching TV?
I did.
Wow.
They let us watch like the World Series and stuff, but usually it was just one movie, and probably more than half the weeks I watched Batman.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. So, sorry, that I tried to start a conversation that just brought it to a halt.
No, you're fine.
But,
Yeah.
I will say with Tim Burton, though, yeah, he was still kind of in his joyful days, and you can see a lot of Tim Burton-ness. But his opener of going around the Batman symbol the way that Tim Burton does his thing has laid the line for I don't know how many movie openings.
Oh, yeah.
People have copied that feel and that goofy over-eccentricness, but his directing in a live action is so beautiful. He has so many things that he's looking for. He has lighting in the right places. He has little quips here and there that are just, again, it's that he's very meticulous. And he has this just eye that is very cool that worked well with Batman. And I thought for a while, flipping these, what if Tim Burton would have done Superman? It wouldn't have been the same movie.
Mm-mm.
And Batman just fit his eye and his weird, quirky, dark, but yet joyful play. Because there's a lot of really fascinating camera work that's done. There's a lot of really interesting direction in the way that the cinematographer worked with all of the action that he has going on. And just some of the bizarre, like when Joker goes into the museum and he goes through and repaints everything.
Yeah.
And then he sees the one painting that kind of looks like two people having sex, and he's like, no, I like this one. I don't know why, but I like it. And he leaves that one alone, but it makes no sense, but it's so Tim Burton. It's this quirky weirdness that's going on in that scene.
And it's not just all sullen people with sunken eyes being all weird. Like,
yeah. It's bizarre. It's Tim Burton to the T.
Yes.
Now, can I give the sob story of Superman, or do we want to talk about Batman first?
No, go ahead. Give a sob story.
The sob story, of course, with Superman is that poor Richard Donner, who worked his butt off, shooting 2 movies at the same time, which had never been done in Hollywood. It was a super expensive feat to do. Had a great story, knew exactly where he wanted to do it, and then it was torn away from him. And a lot of things changed, and a lot of what he wanted and how he wanted the works to build in from Superman to Superman 2 were all taken away from him. And I thought he did a really good job with what trials and tribulations he actually had on set.
Yeah.
Ignore all of the visual effects. It was the 70s.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even, again, we have to take it in kind of historical context. And, some of that stuff was pretty groundbreaking at the time. And I'd read, and maybe I'm going to ruin some of your trivia again, Mike.
Nope, that's fine.
That, they spent like $2 million up front just trying to figure out how to make Superman fly. Basically. So, the visual effects, to us today may seem primitive, but at the time, again, I think they were probably pretty groundbreaking. Now, one of my favorite things about Superman is the cinematography and the composition of the shots. The composition of many of the shots is just gorgeous. For instance, the scene where young Superman is standing out in the field with his mother discussing, I have to go. I'm going to leave now. And there's that scene where they're standing out in the field and they're in the foreground and the house is in the background, and it's just surreal. It's just gorgeous looking. And you'll find that kind of stuff throughout Superman. And I really think that, Tim Burton has a very distinctive style, and there are some very interesting things to it. But I felt like the cinematography in Superman was like textbook. Like this is the way you do it, because there's some really beautiful stuff going on here.
And that scene where he's out in the field with the house in the background, he then parallels that and does it again when he builds his Fortress of Solitude. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same shot. He's standing there and there's the fortress, and he's really tiny, and it's this wide, beautiful shot of him in front of the Fortress of Solitude in the same exact manner.
Huh. Sure, yeah.
Everyone's like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, so go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the thing with Tim Burton, when Tim Burton's good, Tim Burton is really good. You know, the Batman and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and I think those are the two main ones. But
Big Fish.
Edward Scissorhands, Big Fish is actually, again, Big Fish is a beautiful film.
Oh, I can't watch that without bawling either. Jeez.
Yeah. So it's, it's what's really interesting is that Superman kind of, started this huge mega superhero movie franchise, tentpole that they're still doing today. But what Batman did was like took it and it's like it can be dark. And what these guys deal with, Adam West, God bless him, and Batman's a dark character. What he does and the story and where he comes from and everything is a very, very dark place. And I think that's quite a feat to take something that Superman created and then turn it around and be like, these stories don't all need to be, sunshine and lollipops.
No, I agree totally. I mean, without this Burton Batman, you wouldn't have had the fantastic Batman the Animated Series. Yeah, where it's all dark. I mean, all their all the paintings in it for the background were all painted on black, and then they brought in the color. Like originally, they always started with black, and that's it makes Batman moody, which is what Batman should be. And I agree with you. No offense to the Adam West Batman stuff. I still watch it and I still enjoy it. But Batman is supposed to be dark and moody. He goes out at night. He is a detective, which you don't see a lot of in this film. you don't see a lot of detecting. But yeah, without the Tim Burton Batman, you don't have, how many well, let's not talk about Joel Schumacher.
No, let's talk about Joel Schumacher. Because I'm sorry, Batman Forever, people knock it all the time, and they can't lump it together with Batman and Robin. That's a piece of shit. But Batman Forever did a really great job of taking it back to the comic book. And it was the first comic book movie that I saw where I could actually see the panels of the comic book on the screen and the voice bubbles coming from their head. And I love... Fuck you guys! I love Batman Forever.
I totally.
Was in theaters.
I totally agree with you. I love that movie. Like that's the first movie I ever saw in the drive-in.
Not be knocking Joel Schumacher.
But Batman and Robin's god awful. And,
it's really that's agreed.
I don't care for what was it? Batman Return? No,
Begins?
Returns. Begin? No. What's the second one in the Tim Burton?
Batman Forever.
Batman Returns.
Batman Returns.
So
I do not like Batman Returns at all.
I don't think it was as good.
No. But you wouldn't have the Chris Nolan darker take. There's all this lineup. You wouldn't have all the DC animated films where Batman's darker. It would be totally different. And I do like how Tim Burton does some of the Dutch angles in the film as well. Like he kind of pays an homage to the 60s Batman by doing some of those Dutch angles.
Yeah.
However, I will say, going back to the whole cinematography of Superman showed a superhero movie that didn't have to be all actions, explosions, close fighting, goofiness. It's almost a cinematic movie, whereas Batman is more your traditional, what we see even today. A lot of action, a lot of things exploding and cool things and cars, and So I think it's very fascinating that something like Superman back in the 70s took away some of that over-the-top action that you normally get from a superhero movie or superheroes in general. All the Captain Americas, the Wonder Womans, and the Batman before, even the TV shows were all that.
Yeah.
And so I think that was really fascinating.
Well, and I mean, you can tell Superman, they were building towards something. You know, they were trying to tell a complete story, get the origin story out, which how many more times do we need to see Batman or Superman's origin story? I'm about
Superman
ready to...
was supposed to be a cliffhanger, though.
Right. No, Superman is supposed to be a cliffhanger because the second one, you know, it's the action. It's the, you know, digging deeper into the who is Superman, but also it's the action part of that, you know, the two films.
It was supposed to end with Lex Luthor launching the nuclear missiles, and that's it.
Right.
It was supposed to end right there.
Right.
That's how Richard Donner originally wanted it.
That would have been way better.
Well, because the second one wasn't supposed to have the recap, but then when Richard Lester came in, he's like, "Oh, people need to know what actually happened, so they are caught up." And it's like, "No, we don't."
No, they don't.
So,
yeah, that's why the Donner cut's so much better. But I agree with you. Like they did Superman, and just tell a quick story. It's kind of infamous amongst our group of friends. There was one night we were partying at the house, and we were out. Some of us were out in the garage, and I was 3 sheets to the wind, and I was explaining to a couple of the people there how they made Superman look like he flew back in the 70s. And I said all they did was use blue screen and an ironing board. And Amanda used to have her ironing board out in the garage, so I set it up and I laid on it and just flat on my face. Took it outside. It's all bent. Took it out, threw it on the curb because trash day was coming up. Went back in, drank a little bit more, and we're back out in the garage. Someone brings it up. I'm like, yeah, let me show you. So I bring it back in, set it back up, and I do it all over again. I wish I had a picture of that damn ironing board. But I mean, I remember watching it as a kid. You know, for me, it was Superman, Star Wars, and those were pretty much it. I mean, I remember them. What's that?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, see, I didn't get to see Raiders until I was older. Because my dad had a fear of snakes. A horrible.
Your dad is Indiana Jones.
He had a horrible fear of snakes, so we never were able to watch it. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like those were my 3 movies. If they were on TV or on HBO, I was watching them.
Which is funny because Steven Spielberg was supposed to direct Superman.
Really?
He turned it down.
Yeah,
he asked for too much money.
Yeah, and they were waiting to see how his Fish movie did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Fish movie.
So it could have, you were at least dabbling in the Spielberg at that age.
Right, yeah. All right, anyone else want to add anything about directing?
One final thing I'll say is that for as influential as Batman was, I do think it borrowed heavily from Superman. Like the moment at the end where they're both falling and he catches Vicky Vale, like that same shit happened with Superman and Lois Lane. With the helicopter at the top of the building. Like also something that you see in the last scene of Batman. There isn't all that much action in Superman, and I feel like Batman borrowed little pieces of imagery.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it like that.
Yeah. However, I will say that if Superman would have caught Lois Lane when she was falling from that building, he would have cut her in half.
All right, Nick.
I'm going to go with Batman.
All right. Andrew.
Oh crap. I don't know. I'm gonna have to say purely on directing, I will have to go with Batman.
All right. Tom.
I'm gonna have to go Superman because, let's see, 78. So what was that? 30. What? 6 years ago? 37 years ago?
Yeah.
And they are still trying to top Superman.
No.
And Batman's been topped a couple times over already. Superman is still. People left Batman Superman last week and went, God dang it, it's still not as good as Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner. So,
yeah.
going to Superman.
All right. Gabe.
Yeah, I think with the really competent directing and the great cinematography, I have to go with Superman as well.
Okay. All right. During filming of Batman, a young Tim Burton was having trouble shooting a scene with Jack Palance. When filming a scene with Palance, Burton called out action, and a few minutes later, Palance didn't show up in this shot. Tim Burton later cut and took a walk on set, only to find out that Jack had a hearing problem. The deaf but irritated Palance asked Burton, I've had more than 100 films. How many have you made?
That's pretty good.
Burton said years later that it was a whiteout experience he would never forget. Despite this incident, Burton was happy to have him involved with the film. Initially, Gene Hackman refused to cut off his mustache to play Lex Luthor. In early one-sheets of the movie, his face is featured with a mustache. Now, see, I've seen these pictures on the Webernets, and before Richard Donner and Hackman met face-to-face, Donner proposed to Hackman that if he would cut his mustache, Donner would cut his too, and Hackman agreed. It turned out later that Donner did not have a mustache at all. He wore a false mustache that he peeled off at the last moment.
Awesome.
See, that is
more
fantastic.
brilliant directing.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's
Can I
move.
change my vote for them? That's brilliant.
All right, let's move on to our last and final round, which is overall.
I will say that overall, both movies, surprisingly, they both stand up. I watched them both here recently because of this, just to really get a refresher on everything that I loved about both movies. And surprisingly, they both stand up. We can mock at the special effects and how those didn't quite make it, but you can do the same with Batman. There are some effects and things in there. But for the most part, story, characters, they're both fun. They're both enjoyable to watch. However, I will say in my overalls that as a kid, I grew up with Superman. I grew up with Christopher Reeve. I grew up wearing tights and, my little Superman underoos and a towel wrapped around my neck. In fact, I have a picture with BJ and my friend Matt Kipper. All three of us dressed that way. We wanted to be Superman. Superman was so cool. And I think it's more of a childhood connection that really draws me into having that Christopher Reeve Superman. I don't know. There's just too much to it.
Yeah, I have to say that I feel like both of these films actually hold up pretty well over time.
Yeah,
like you mentioned, that there may be things where the visual effects aren't quite what we're used to anymore, but even so, they still hold up pretty well. That the visual effects are suitable. It's because they generally serve to tell the story, and the stories are still compelling. The acting is still good. The directing is still good, and we still enjoy these movies even today. And I would argue that these movies are, in some ways, maybe even better than some of the more modern versions of them. Now, I have to say, the modern versions of Batman, the Christopher Nolan versions of Batman overall, are really awesome in my mind. I really think he took them in a great direction. But when I was watching, this Batman, I thought, well, he kind of borrowed. He didn't totally reinvent, and obviously it's the same characters, same story, and that kind of thing. But I felt like he didn't completely reinvent the wheel. He did kind of borrow, and so I think they really hold up over time.
He borrowed that scene where Batman's parents get shot in the alley. He borrowed that directly from the movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
And
Whew.
Gabe, I'm going to say I agree with you because, I mean, yes, there's been Man of Steel. Even Batman Returns or Superman Returns was kind of a trying to reboot a little bit of the genre. The Man of Steel really was going all out. But, I mean, I enjoyed Man of Steel, but not like I enjoy Superman.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure I enjoyed Man of Steel necessarily.
It was for a movie. It was an enjoyable movie, and that's as far as I'll say right now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like... That I have all kinds of problems with that, but that's another discussion.
Well, but I think Tom
reincarnation of Superman is what I'm saying.
Right, but I think Tom makes a good point. Like they're still trying to top, Donner and Reeves, and they just can't. They just can't.
And maybe that's what it is. I mean, maybe it's that pair.
That's what I think. What it is that stop trying to top them. I mean, these are here, and either build on them or try something different, like what Christopher Nolan did with Batman Begins. I mean, take it back into its roots and tell a good story. It's not that seriously. It's not that fucking hard. Just tell a good story.
Yeah,
just let Superman the movie live on, and let this be its origin story, and just tell a fucking good story. That's all we're asking for. Well, just stop trying to wow us with special effects and blues and darks and fuck, dude. Just tell a good story. That's all we're asking for. And
that's what Nolan did. He told a trilogy, and he said, "That's it. This stands by itself. It's not part of this. It's not part of that. It's just these three movies."
Exactly.
And God bless him for that.
And here's the thing too is, I mean, what Superman did was came out and said, "Look we can tell an epic superhero story." And everybody went, "Holy shit, I didn't know you could do that." And then Batman came along and like, "We can do it, and it could be for older people, and it could be kind of dark." And people are like, "Holy shit, I didn't know you could do that." And then Batman Begins comes along, and you're like, "We can make it really fucking dark." And you're like, "Holy shit, that's amazing." And then Deadpool comes out, and you're like, "And it can be rated R." And like,
yes, you can fucking swear it. It'd be awesome.
And Avengers came out, and you're like, and you can have 17 superheroes in it. Who gives a shit? And as long as it's done well, surprise us, okay? Just tell us a good story and stop trying to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's awesome the way it is. Just, put some baseball cards in the spokes.
There you go. Yeah. Or what were those little things you put on your spokes? You remember the plastic things you would attach to the spokes?
Condoms?
No. No.
Sorry, I'm from Omaha. That's what you did.
Oh, that's what you did? Okay, never
We
mind.
wrapped our cards with aluminum foil. You stack them, and then they have a strong... Come on. No? Nobody? All right.
What?
Before you put them on your bike.
Seriously, nobody Trojaned their wheels?
No,
Like,
never.
I didn't even know what they were supposed to be used for. I thought they were just like shitty balloons. Really? Okay. I'm kind of sorry I said that now.
we got to talk later, Tom.
We really don't. Oh my God, look at the time.
So thanks, Tom, for being around.
Yeah. It's been fun. It's been a fun 6 years. You guys take it easy. I'm going to go listen to Uncle Cracker.
Follow me.
We talk about all of the, everyone trying to top either Superman or Batman or whomever. And I guess I can't think of another superhero movie before Superman.
Well, there were, but they were, serialized ones. They weren't mainstream.
Okay. I kind of have always pegged Superman as, the pivot point to superhero movies.
It is.
And I just didn't know if there was any that I don't know about that maybe I'm missing.
Well, I mean, you had the Superman TV show. You had some actual Batman movies that were serialized, that they would show before the feature film, kind of like what they did with cartoons.
Yep.
And then, I mean, essentially...
That was Adam West, though, right?
What's that?
That was Adam West.
No, actually, it was before that. It was actually in the 30s and 40s.
Really?
If I remember correctly, yeah. Yeah, there's some really awesome footage of some of the acting. And I mean, it's a different time. But yeah, it's out there. You can find it.
So with the overview, do we get to talk about the Superman curse?
Yes.
So everyone knows, at least for those who are listening, I don't know if people know, but the Superman curse, if whoever plays Superman either gets sick, dies incredibly at a young age, and there have been people that have actually turned down the role of Superman because they are so fearful in Hollywood of this curse.
Right. But Brandon Routh doing pretty well. I love him as the Atom on
He's
Legends of
Atom.
Tomorrow. Yeah. He plays a damn good Atom.
Yeah.
And Henry Cavill, however you want to say it, he looks like a strapping young lad. He's probably my age. What am I talking about?
Well, I think we really need to spend a little bit of time in this section talking about the music.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
These
you.
two films, because I think the music in both of these films is pretty fantastic, and it's amazing how that stuff sticks with you. I mean, those themes for both movies stick with me, and I find myself humming them. Even well after
When
the
you're
movie
taking
is
a shower.
done. So
The Otis music, man.
Yeah, while taking
my
showers.
head ever since I watched it.
what is?
The Otis music.
Dun,
Oh, yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's classic John Williams.
Oh, John. Okay.
And it's one of those. To me, he's one of the best to have ever composed film music. So many of his themes are so memorable. I mean, how many of them can we name? I mean, Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jurassic Park,
Superman.
The theme to the Olympics,
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
And I remember even as a
So
kid
many of them.
that you would hear Superman and Star Wars, and you'd be like, which one is it?
Yeah.
Because they were so similar when they started.
Yes. And I think all artists,
As a kid.
all those artists have kind of a trademark, and he definitely does. And I feel the same way about Danny Elfman.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not as huge a fan of Danny Elfman as I am of John Williams, but the main Batman theme in that just to me really stands out and is really great. Some of the other music I thought was a little bit kind of campy and cartoonish. Especially for what we keep talking about as a darker film. It brought a strange levity to it, which maybe was the point, but I felt like the main theme for that film was completely memorable.
Nothing can beat having Prince in a movie.
Yes.
I had
the
I felt like
soundtrack.
that was a little out of place.
I had the
It's
soundtrack.
a little-
I had the Batman soundtrack, which had
Just
Prince
because-
songs on it.
Yeah, just because of the Prince songs.
No, see, and that was the first time I was just kind of like, he's kind of whoring himself for this. I mean, they're just they're shoehorning this music
Yeah.
into this,
No, it's
I felt
true.
that too.
and there's been so many bad instances since that's happened. There's
Yes.
like, come on, you don't need this song in this movie.
I felt the exact opposite. The scene where they're going around and messing with all the artwork, I thought Prince was the perfect song to be going in the background there.
And he's dressed in purple like Prince in that scene.
Yes, with a baker's hat on.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman's theme, though, Gabe, you brought that up. That was used throughout, up until Chris Nolan's Batman.
Really?
Yeah, like they, in all the incarnations,
Yeah.
Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. I can't say it without throwing up a little bit in my mouth. And then all throughout the animated series. That's what opens the show.
Well, and I
And-
think it's a very strong theme. It's very memorable.
Yes,
Now, to be honest
absolutely.
with you, I'm trying to think of what the Christopher Nolan music sounded like.
Not as it's more drum heavy, if that makes sense. It's more percussion heavy, if I remember correctly. Now,
So that says a little something.
yes, exactly. And I even saw Nolan's the first Batman film. I saw that at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and to me, that just like stuck out. I'll remember that for the rest of my life. But I still remember going to the Southridge 3 theaters in Des Moines and seeing Batman and just that experience. And the music sticks with you. It's absolutely true.
And playing into the music, I have to say that the opening to Superman opening credits is so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I freaking love it. And I know I've heard people complain that they're really long and overdone. And I just think it is absolutely gorgeous. I think it's fun to watch.
The second Superman 2, I love the credits in that.
I do too. Yeah.
Well, and it's good too because it kind of primes you for the 90 minutes of prologue that's coming up. I will tell you, and this struck me when I was watching Superman. I watched it with my kids, and my two older ones are 9 and 7, and the music started, and my 9-year-old turned around and he's like, "Is this John Williams?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is John Williams." And my 9-year-old and 7-year-old know who John Williams is and can easily name off like 12 of his scores.
That brings joy to my heart, Tom.
We are 40 years removed from some of these movies, Star Wars and Superman, and they still know who this guy is. And I mean, I don't think they know who Spielberg is, to be honest with you. They know who John Williams is better than they know Spielberg. It's just staggering for that. Maybe they're losers and they watch too many movies.
No, absolutely not. That brings joy to my heart. Manda always says if there's one musician in this world, it'd be John Williams that I would offer my body up to. I love John Williams' music. You know, he is a great composer. So yeah, and I mean the Superman theme, no matter what, it's still used today on certain things.
Yep.
I was rewatching Superman, and Marnie had never seen it, and she heard the music, and she said, "Why are you watching Star Wars?"
See? Told ya. The untrained ears.
Yes.
I had read a story where John Williams presented the score to the first time for them, and I think it was Richard Donner who said was like he made the instrument say Superman. Yeah, and he's like, he goes, I'm still amazed at it when I hear it. He made this instrumental song say Superman.
Yeah,
you know,
Superman.
And it's like that's genius. Good job. Yeah, of course you're gonna stick with that for a long time.
Yeah.
And again, I will say though, the opening credits for Batman once again has been copied, pulled, ripped, whatever you call it.
Of course.
That close-up where he goes in on the bat symbol and he's working his way around is so Tim Burton, but yet is so iconic.
Yeah.
HBO did it first, though, Andrew.
Now,
who wrote that?
I can't tell you who wrote that.
Okay, we'll figure that out before the end of the show.
All right, but yeah, I totally agree with you. There are so many films now that will go close in on whatever logo and go around inside of it, and then they finally pull out. But yeah, HBO did it, but they didn't do it quite as good as Burton.
Well, that's good.
All right. Have you all said what you wanted for Batman and Superman?
I think so.
All right. Let's put it to a vote then. Andrew.
For overall, I'm going to have to go with Superman.
All right. Tom.
I've been dreading this moment all week. Shit. Probably Superman. I'm gonna go Superman. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Gabe.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough one, and this may be one of our closer bouts. We've had some pretty
so far. It
lopsided
is.
ones. Yeah, it's pretty close. I think I have to go Superman too.
We're not voting on Superman.
Yeah, we're
As
Superman
well.
one.
Damn it! I thought of that earlier.
That joke is always so funny.
I know. And I knew better because of what happened to Nick.
All right,
Superman
Nick.
as well.
I think, man, I had not seen Superman in forever, and I watched it, and it is a great origin story. It's a little long, but it was thoroughly enjoyable with the stupid ending. I think Batman is. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
I'm going.
It just
You
sounds
expect like a big.
Strickland's talking, everybody go.
I think
Batman, somebody said earlier that it wasn't an origin story. It's not for Batman, but it is an origin story for the Joker.
Yeah,
which I read. It was the first of its kind. Like, they really hadn't delved into the Joker's origin in any of the comics or anything. And I feel like that's what they got right. Like, the most iconic scene for me is the one after he's had his accident with the mirror. Like that makes the movie for me. That's the most important character. I feel like Batman.
All right. Let's see here. I got there we go. It's funny that you bring up Steven Spielberg about Superman, because originally Steven Spielberg, well, not originally, but also admitted he was really interested in doing a Batman movie. And are you guys ready for who he wanted to play the parts? This is really out there.
Harrison Ford.
He wanted,
That's what I was gonna say.
He wanted Dennis Quaid as Bruce Wayne / Batman. I can see it.
I can see that better than some of the others we've talked about.
Like
Harrison Ford as the Joker.
Harrison Ford would have been actually.
He's too subdued.
Yeah. Have you ever danced with the devil in Pale Moonlight? Gina Davis is Silver St. Cloud, an interchangeable love interest represented here by Vicky Vale. Dustin Hoffman as the Penguin.
I can see that.
This one's good. Burt Reynolds as Commissioner James Gordon.
That could work.
John Pertwee. John Pertwee as Alfred. Richard Dreyfuss as Rupert Thorne.
Yeah, well,
I'm Richard Dreyfuss.
yeah.
And Martin Sheen as Harvey Dent.
Martin Sheen, he played Kennedy once.
Yeah.
I'm I'm sorry. When you just did the I'm Richard
Dreyfuss.
Is that the Star Wars
Yes.
skit
Yes,
on Saturday
it
Night
is.
Live? It's not even from a movie.
No.
Right.
It's not even something he has ever said.
No.
Right,
no.
right.
I just love that.
Kudos to Saturday Night Live for such a skit from 20 years ago. Wow. Cool.
Hey, it's like the Matt Damon.
Yeah, Matt Damon. But Harrison Ford's Joker. John Pertwee's son, Sean Pertwee, played Alfred 25 years later in the show Gotham. So there you go. Okay, this one's a long one too. The development of the best method to show Superman flying was a long period of experimentation. The methods attempted included simply catapulting a dummy into the air, a remote control model airplane painted as the character and simply animating the flying sequence. The producers settled for a combination of forward projection and specially designed zoom lenses that could create the illusion of movement by zooming in on Christopher Reeve while making the forward projection appear to recede. For scenes where Superman has to interact with other people or objects while in flight, Reeve and fellow actors were put in a variety of rigging equipment with careful lighting and photography to hide the equipment. They also used an ironing board and blue screen, according to one such IMDb guy. That'd be me. So, all right. I've really enjoyed this discussion, fellas. This has been fun. Let's move on to our recommendations, and we will start with Tom.
See, this was hard. Was I going to do a Tim Burton movie and do, Pee's Big Adventure, a Richard Donner movie, and do Goonies? But I decided I'm going to stick with the superhero theme, and not really comic book, but I think one of the best superhero movies of all time, because it also did something really cool that we got to see superheroes kind of in their day-to-day life, and that is the Pixar movie The Incredibles, which I think is one of the best superhero movies of all time, because it's such a interesting look at these. I mean, because they're human and they have their lives and stuff, and I love that part. But I also love the allegory of a family sticking together and working together to get through their problems, whether it's somebody lost a shoe or some crazy redhead ginger guy's taking over the planet. So I think my recommendation is for Incredibles, and it ages very, very well. And it makes me very sad that they're making a sequel, but money's got to be made. So
I'm excited for the sequel.
I'm not.
No?
Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Yeah.
I want more of it, though. I mean, number one, yeah, gingers can't be trusted. Number two, that is the best Fantastic Four movie out there. I mean, if you think of it, Fantastic Four has failed. Every movie that's come out has been awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, The Incredibles hands down is a great film.
Yeah, and it's it's absolutely amazing, and I love how the superhero's superpower is related to the role of dad as being the super strong guy that can get through anything, and the mom who is super flexible and could bend over backwards quite literally to help her kids. And I think it's so well thought out and so planned. And unless Brad Bird is absolutely, running point on the next one, I'm going to be very disappointed in it. So Pixar sequels don't usually do too well. So
yeah, well, don't set yourself up for disappointment.
I set my expectations low for everything in life, Michael.
That's why you're on this podcast.
That's how I get through this podcast. Zing, and I'm out.
All right, Gabe.
That kind of hurt, Tom.
Which part?
Yeah.
Wait, which part?
Because you'll repeat it.
Yeah.
Oh, getting through
Never
the
mind.
podcast.
Anyway, okay. I don't remember if any of us have suggested this as a recommendation yet.
We probably have, but go ahead.
But we may have. We may have. And I may be stealing somebody else's. I don't know. But as far as superhero movies go, I have to highly recommend Deadpool.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. I loved Deadpool. I didn't really know anything about the character or anything before I went and saw it. And it was freaking hilarious. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. I was at one part in the movie, I was laughing so hard I was crying. And I have
Which
not
part?
laughed that hard.
Hold on. Which part?
Where he's trying to beat up what's
Colossus?
Yeah,
Yes.
where he's trying to beat him up. I was just like, oh my god! I was. It's kind of silly and lowbrow, but it was just hilarious the way they did it. The timing was perfect, and they just kept on hitting you at the right time with another little joke. And it's like, oh god! And the character development is good. It's just a really entertaining film. So if you haven't seen Deadpool, go see it. Plus, as we discussed earlier, it's so much fun to have an R-rated superhero film where he can swear and drink and do all those kinds of things. It just as an adult, I identify with that a little bit more, and I find it satisfying. So definitely go see Deadpool.
Well,
That was amazing.
Yeah, as a 6'4", 260-pound nerd, I want to state that I've loved Deadpool ever since he was created, and having read the comic books and having known the character, I enjoyed it so much because there are so many Easter eggs throughout that film that are like, just kind of little winks to the people that know the character. But I absolutely agree with you. I went and saw it twice. I had to see it again. Amanda bought the soundtrack. And she never buys soundtracks for movies, all right? She really enjoyed it. And it's, oh man, it is so good. Like you're absolutely right. The comedy is great in it. The action's great. And I mean, it boils down to it's a love story.
Yeah.
It is an absolute love story.
It is, but it's a love story on a guy level.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
It's because it's very sexual in a way.
It is.
They get their intimacy. Their intimacy is based
Happy
on
National Women's Day.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
But
their intimacy is based on their physical relationship. It's definitely a guy movie.
It was a Valentine's Day movie for guys.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and it's very. But it is. As a guy, I have to say it's very satisfying on many levels. For a guy, it's so enjoyable.
But I think also it shows that this was a passion project, not only for Ryan Reynolds, but also for the director. Like they have tried for years to get this movie made, and they kept saying no because they didn't want to make an R-rated comic book film.
Yeah,
and finally they said
that's the way to bank.
Yeah, and finally they said, "Fine, do it." After they did that little test reel, and they said, "Fine, do it if you can do it cheap enough." And it has made quadruple its money back. It might
It's
be
the
actually
highest grossing rated R movie.
Yeah. But yes, that's a very good pick, Gabe. Nick?
I am also going to go with a Pixar movie. I was not excited about seeing this, but I was forced to watch Toy Story 3 a couple weeks ago. And have any of you guys seen it?
Schindler's Toy Box? Yes.
Now,
Fantastic.
I may have to mute you guys because I have not yet seen it.
All I'll say is that
Spoilers.
the story that the toys are engaged in and the story that the humans are engaged in are both very well done.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The action is good. The like heartfelt stuff is good, and the villain is voiced by Otis.
Interesting.
That's all I
Nice
got.
connection. Nice connection.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a damn good pick, Nick.
That's the button I got to put on.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Andrew.
So my pick is not a superhero movie, but it's just one that I saw recently that I've seen like 20 times ever since I saw it, and that's Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. And if you have not seen this movie, I'm telling you what, it gives you full excitement for all of your zombie-loving goofiness and comedy, and yet every time I watch it, I in my head immediately go, yeah, this is what me and my friends would look like during a zombie apocalypse. This is all the stupid shit that we would do during a zombie apocalypse. It's fantastic. It's cute. It's funny. I've watched it a ton of times, and I'd watch it again.
I've actually been wanting to watch that. So
The minute you watch it, you'll go, yep, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. Oh, yeah, that's so-and-so, because they would so do that. I mean, I had Jeremy Gracie picked out of the film within the first 5 minutes.
nice.
So it's so good, and it seems cheap, but once you get into watching it, it's not. And Patrick Schwarzenegger's in it, so,
Really?
yeah.
Huh. All right, I'll give it a shot. Just on the Patrick Schwartz. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's really good. It's really cute and very funny. Like I said, it measures to both all of the people that enjoy zombies and a good zombie movie, while engrossing at the same time of a good comedy and somewhat realism of what would really happen.
Right.
And the opening scene is probably one of the best opening scenes in a movie I've seen in a very, very long time.
Awesome. I'll check it out. All right. Well, my pick is actually a documentary. It's kind of funny. We've got a animated superhero film. We have an R-rated superhero film. We have an animated film that stars one of the stars of one of our films, and then we also have a zombie film. This one's a documentary. It's called The Death of Superman Lives.
Oh.
What happened? So I'm trying to tie it back to both Superman and Batman. I had been wanting to see this because I don't know if any of you had ever seen, was it Live with Kevin Smith or whatnot? He tells the whole Superman Lives story, which is epic, and I laugh every time I watch it. And this is actually about the whole process that they were going through for Superman Lives. And of course they do interview Kevin Smith. They have Tim Burton in there, Nicolas Cage. They have the screenwriters. They have everyone. And I mean, there's footage in there showing you what the suit would have looked like. There's footage in there showing you what Nicolas Cage would have looked like as Superman. And I just have to say, I'm really happy they didn't do it. But there is a part of me that is like, oh, I wish I could see that movie. Like, I would love to see that movie now, but I'm also thankful that they didn't make it. So check out The Death of Superman Lives. I feel it drags a little bit through the middle, but it's really good. If you love films, I love documentaries about films or about filmmakers, and I think this works into both categories. And real quick, I asked the panelists tonight if any of them had seen Batman v Superman, And unfortunately, I was the only one that had seen it. So my non-spoiler review is Ben Affleck is really good as Batman. Wonder Woman steals the show. Warner Brothers, you need to add a little bit of joy into your films. You've got the spectacle right, but there needs to be a little bit of happiness. Superman,
hey man, screw that shit, man. Comics are dark, and I'm a moody teenager. Go fuck yourself.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I've seen all the comments in the last 2 weeks. People being like defending the seriousness of it. And it's like
I understand they're trying to set themselves apart from Marvel, but Marvel has the equation down right. They can still deal with heavy issues, but also make them lighthearted and also have fun with it.
Yeah, Winter
and
Soldier.
be serious. Exactly, right? Yeah. And Superman or Batman v Superman, I have to tell you, I had a head slap moment, and that was when they figure out a certain thing that I can't say, but it makes them stop fighting. And so I won't say anything else because I don't want to spoil it. But I was just like, really? This is the reason why? But Zack Snyder can compose a shot. Okay, there are some beautiful looking shots. I mean, I was talking with Kyle about it on Sunday, and he's like, "Yeah, look at Sucker Punch. You know, Sucker Punch is just this beautiful wet dream of imagery. The story makes absolutely no sense, but it's just beautifully composed visually." And I'm like, yeah, you know, Batman v Superman is the same way. It's just Superman is the light. Batman is the darkness. And that's kind of what we talked about on this show. And I don't think the people in charge, whether it be Chris Nolan, who's overseeing this universe, Zack Snyder, who directed it, or the higher ups at Warner Brothers, but Superman needs to be more Superman, like more Chris Reeve, smiley and happy to be there, instead of the dark moody, oh, I'm Superman, you know, oh, woe is me.
I like pink. He creeped me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Was he talking about panties at that moment?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, that one threw my kids for a loop.
Yeah, that one.
Like, is he looking at her underwear?
Yeah, yeah, he is.
You know, we didn't talk that much about Superman 3, but I will say that, like, everybody, like, the best scene in Superman 3 is when evil Superman shows up after Superman gets plowed at the bar. And I think that's kind of where they're like, ooh, we need more of that. We need more of drunk Superman.
That
could be.
That movie was done by Richard Lester, and I know that movie was sad.
Is that the one with Richard Pryor?
Yes.
Yes. He makes the movie.
He does make the movie.
He tries to make kryptonite, and he looks onto his cigarette carton, Marlboros, mind you, to figure out what the unknown ingredient is, and adds tar.
I'd like to change my recommendation to Superman 3.
Now, I have to say, I can't remember which channel it was, but they were having a Superman marathon, because they were Batman v Superman. I keep wanting to say Superman v Batman, but it's Batman v Superman. They were, just showing all the Superman films. And I actually sat down and watched Superman 3, and I enjoyed watching it. And I think I enjoyed watching it because of the campiness. It's
a little rapey with Lana Lane.
It gets really rapey with Lana Lane. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But Richard Pryor was great in it. I loved him in that film. He did make the film. So all right, let's poke the monkey. Find out who won.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Superman!
That was close, boys.
We almost put you in an awkward position.
You did almost put me. I every time you guys voted, I'm like, okay, which one am I going to pick? So yeah, that was really close, and I like it when we have close battles like this, and not blowouts like last month's.
Blowouts are fun when one movie's really shitty, like, I don't know, The Core, and the other one's really good, like Sunshine. And we get to talk about the awesome movie and how shitty the shitty movie is.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true. All right, let's find out where people can stalk you, Tom.
Oh, people can usually find me standing on top of their local cathedral waiting for someone to shine my logo in the sky, which is, in case you're looking for it, it's the silhouette of two rhinos doing it. So
That's silly. I've been doing it wrong this whole time. I've been shining a large H into the sky.
yeah, no, that's not mine. I have seen that guy flying around though.
Have
so.
you? Okay.
Yep, and people can follow me. Oh, fuck. Hang on, I can get through this. Hang on. Nope, it's in there. It's in there. Yep, I feel the rage setting in. So I'm off to kill Uncle Cracker.
All right. You can follow Tom on Twitter at Uncle Cracker Lover.
I'm on his Facebook page right now, the little bastard.
Gabe.
All right. Well, you can check me out on Facebook or onegenomeshort.com.
All right. Thanks, Gabe. Nick?
You could probably check me out on Twitter, Nick_Strickland.
All right. And Andrew?
You can follow Arizona Ink Studios on AZ Ink Studios on Twitter, and you can find us on Google Plus as well. Yeah, I said it. And of course,
You said Google Plus.
I did. And a YouTube channel. Of course, we have Facebook, and then ArizonaInkStudios.com.
There you go. All right. I was listening to you guys, not paying attention to what I'm doing. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter. You can also find Southsider Studios on YouTube, and go to southsiderstudios.com, which will direct you to YouTube. We would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. And for May, we go silent as City Lights takes on The Artist. And to keep up with the mood of the two films, we will be recording the show with no audio. So for Gabe, Tom, Nick, Andrew, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
It's history. It's happening, Superman. Mitch Teschmacher!
So, without further ado, let's poke the monkey.
All right, so let's start talking about.
Wait, no, that's just the intro.
What?
That's just that's the opening intro.
Okay, it's fine. No, it's cool. I screwed this one up. It's fine. Here's the thing. I have Uncle Cracker stuck in my head, and it's like I'm ready to fucking kill someone.
Why are you listening to Uncle Craig?
I wasn't. Somebody said the phrase "follow me," and I just like finished the lyric, and because it's like kind of like "sail away" and "Cartman," and it's "follow me," and it's been 3 days.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.